Hi, everyone. I'm Gold Derby News and Features Editor Ray Richmond, and I'm here today with Mike Yurchuk, an executive producer on the NBC primetime musical comedy game show That's My Jam, hosted by Tonight Show host Jimmy Fallon. The show features celebrities competing in comedic music-themed challenges inspired by those seen on Tonight with Fallon. So, Mike, let's get right to it because in your second season, That's My Jam was nominated as Outstanding Game Show. And that's why we're talking to you today.
Yeah,
Congrats on that.
listen, we're beyond excited. I can't believe it, to be honest. It's the company we're in is incredible. Obviously, when you look at the shows that we're in the same category with that our fellow nominees, it's Price is Right, Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, Family
I
Feud.
was going to say, I mean, it's literally the long running legends of the game show world.
Yeah, I mean, it's like these legacy shows. It's the best game shows of all time, and us. I feel like we're like the bad news bears of this category. Uh,
Yeah,
but you know,
how is
I'm
that how is
really
that
hopeful.
possible that you're up against Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, Price is Right, and Family Feud? It's fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd like to think it's because people are recognizing the work and truly, it's one of those things where like those shows are icons and serve as inspiration for us and what we do on our show. It's everything we do on That's My Jam. We want it to have these kind of like for it to feel familiar, but then also be made brand new, and so yeah, I hope that people are just recognizing the work, enjoying the show, and are entertained, and that's how we got to be amongst these incredible, incredible, iconic game shows.
And which is not to say that your nomination isn't well deserved. I mean, because you're tackling a format that's unique to games in prime time or anywhere else. Um, you know, it's uh, it's not exactly name that tune. It's the next
No.
generation name that tune. Talk about how this show originally came together, Mike, if you could, in 2021.
Yeah, of course. I mean, to be fair, it went back way further than that. I think, I started in 2020, the beginning of that year, and they had already had kind of started the ball rolling on the show before then. Obviously, COVID was kind of right in that bulk, but in February of 2020, I'd gotten a call from Meredith R., who was then president over at Unscripted at NBC, and she said she had me in mind for this show, wanted me to go meet with Jimmy, and if it went well, I'd be producing that show. And so it all happened very quickly. I was on a plane to New York the next week. I met with Jimmy. It went really well, and they wanted to try to get that show on the air. I want to say it was like June of that summer. It was really quick, and ambitious, and we were also going to shoot it on the SNL stages uh, at 30 Rock, which is like, if you've been, I'm sure you have, but it's, a small studio, very wide, but like not, pretty shallow. Set pieces don't move, right? Grand Central like stays where it is. We'd have to kind of skin it, the bleachers there. So it was a unique situation. I was excited to be shooting on that stage. And then that was early February of 2020. And so March 11th, I think, was the date that I was flying back out to New York, and just everything seemed to go. NBA
Completely.
suspends their season, right? Tom Hanks has COVID. I was getting all these news alerts on the plane. And so we were in the midst of just getting the whole team out in New York going. And just as quickly, we shut down. Everybody thought it was going to be a couple of weeks. And weirdly, what that did was give us, we came back to LA and we started going like, okay, how do we shoot it here? It seemed like New York was the epicenter of it. And we started getting things up and running again. We were working out of a warehouse in Van Nuys, working through games, and had a new date in mind. And with COVID, it was just, again, incredibly hard to shoot. Talent wasn't booking. And so we ended up pressing pause again. And I think through all that time of like these kind of starts and stops, we were able to continue working on games, continue working on the format, and got it to a really good place so that when we were finally up and running, it took off. But yeah, the show itself obviously comes from the Tonight Show, inspired very much by Jimmy's, games that exist already on the Tonight Show. And what we've done is kind of taken those games and put new twists on them. Obviously, our format, when you watch the Tonight Show, it's always Jimmy and a guest playing. And so here he's a host. He has 4 guests. There's 2 teams of 2. So we tweaked all the games to be, for that format of 2 versus 2, and to also kind of be bigger and better for prime time. And then we expanded upon those games to build new things that, fit within the show and the format of it. What we always do is put music at the center of everything. So, that's my jam, is very much every game is tied back to music, whether it's, a finish the lyric style game or a music trivia game, a performance-based game. So all of them tie back to music in some fashion.
And you have these fun and unexpected people teaming up to play those games. I mean, Taraji P. Henson and John Stamos together, Joe McHale and Will.i.am, Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Chance the Rapper, Keke Palmer and Saweetie. How do these partnerships come together? It's a lot of them seem so random, but they all work.
And some of them are, it's really interesting. Obviously, on a show like this with 4 celebrities and Jimmy every single episode, and we're shooting 2 a day, you're trying to get 40 people into the same room over the span of 5 days. So to do that, you're working with, obviously like a list of talent where you're like, who's available, who's in town. You start kind of there. Luckily, Jimmy has built up such an incredible reputation in the industry, has such great friends, and people love him. So they want to do the show. Are they available to do it? Are they in town? What day? Because then you're like, okay, are you available on Wednesday morning? And so once you start putting things through that, you start to see like, okay, it becomes a jigsaw puzzle of like, who's available, who would be fun to play together. And weirdly, everything worked out exactly the way it should. When you look at the guests and people that came together in these fun, amazing ways, it just seems like everything fell into place the way it was supposed to. And looking at some of the people you're talking about, but yeah, that episode with Taraji and John Stamos and Quinta Brunson and Craig Robinson was such a fantastic episode. And it was like, okay, all of these people are like TV and film stars, right? They're not musicians by trade, but they all have musical talents. Stamos, Taraji's an incredible singer and performer. Quinta, an amazing entertainer, but like also, has a bit of a dance background. Craig was a music teacher for an elementary school. And that was something too, that like, even when that show starts, Jimmy asked a question to Craig, and Quinta had no idea that obviously she comes from Abbott Elementary, and Craig was an elementary school teacher teaching music. So whenever we get those kind of ties between people, it's always so fun. And on the flip side of that, you mentioned a couple people like Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Chance the Rapper. Those 2 people had never like met before and became like best friends over the course of that episode. They were so mutually like fans of each other that they were so excited to be paired up. And yeah, by the end of it, we're like best of friends. It was a really incredible thing to see.
Do you have tryouts, Mike? I mean, to try to work out the team chemistry, or would that take way too much time?
No, yeah. I mean, we don't. I mean, the show itself, it's what we do is book out the show with guests. And like I said, sort of put that jigsaw puzzle together based on people's availability, who would work really well together. Some people request people, we'll start with one person and they say, I would love to work with this person. And we go after them for that person. So we try to build teams when we can. Sometimes, we had Chloe and Halle Bailey on the show this past season. They're sisters, proteges of Beyonce. Halle was just in The Little Mermaid, the reboot of that movie for Disney, did an incredible job in that. And we were like, they are an obvious pairing, but what if we split them up and had them play against each other, And so
that's evil.
That kind of well, it was just so fun because it's like, obviously people see them working together all the time, but as sisters, it was really nice to see them play against one another. And then we put, Simu with Hallie and Adam Lambert with Chloe. And it was just so fun to see these people come together in that way. And it was such an amazing episode at the end of it. They're also very talented. Simu Liu, obviously just coming off Barbie right now. So we've been really fortunate to have some incredible guests, but yeah, we don't have the luxury of like testing anything out. And I don't think we'd want to. Part of the show's charm is that it feels and kind of is very much a live to tape show. We have Glenn Weiss directing it, which, was also no accident. I wanted somebody that was going to be somebody that has that live show sensibility. And once we start going, we don't stop. It really just moves. Jimmy very much, as you know, but comes from Saturday Night Live. And Lorne Michaels is like his mentor. And so everything that he does comes from that place of like making this like a live performance for the audience that's in the room. And if those people are enjoying it, the people at home will too. So how do we build that experience for those people in the room? And one of the ways to do that is to not have these long stop downs and let things lag and like have to have audience warm up, come out constantly and like keep people in the mood. Like we just want the show to, once it starts, to keep going, to keep it tight, to keep our changeovers in between acts, bringing new games on and off, like to keep that really tight. And so all of that is part of the process of like making this feel like a live show as much as possible. And so part of the charm is like whatever happens. The chemistry that's happening between those people is real. Jimmy's so good at hosting everyone and making people feel like they're protected and making people feel like they're welcome and like kind of allowing them to let their hair down and have a great time. Not everybody signs up to get squirted in the face with water, which happens at the end of every episode. And so just the fact that these people are doing that speaks volumes about Jimmy and about the show. So
He just seems to be having the time of his life, Jimmy. I mean,
he is.
yeah.
He genuinely like, he just loves to laugh. He loves to make other people laugh and to make sure that you're having a great time when you're with him. That's the goal. It's like what he wants. And he's been on the other side of it doing other shows. And I think like from the day I met him, that was the one thing that he was like, he wants the guests to come on the show to have an incredible experience, to go away and tell their friends, and other celebrities, like, you got to do that show. It's so much fun. I had a blast. And it works. It really does. I think it's like if you start there and you make sure that your guests are entertained, that they have a great time, that your audience in the room has a great time, that's what translates, I think, to the people at home, and they feel that too.
How do you, Mike, reassure the people on the show who might, be concerned with maybe embarrassing themselves, that they won't come across looking bad? I always say that because I know how horribly I personally would do at these games, particularly
Right.
trying to, guess the mashups and things like that, which I know in the episode I was watching with Quinta and Taraji, that
Yeah.
it was like, oh my God. Uh, eh, I mean, I know that you can do some editing and stuff to make sure that people don't, if there's an issue, that they're not looking bad. But you're right. I mean, it's all about having a great time, and because the potential for embarrassment is there.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's again part of the charm of the show is like you're seeing celebrities put themselves out there and they might not look perfect, and they very often do not, right? The perfect mashup game you're talking about, it's hard. It's harder than people realize, I think, too, because we always do those mashups where the first few seconds of the song is maybe the music instrumental, and then once the lyrics to another song kicks in, it hurts your brain. You're like, wait a second, I lost the first one. You got to think of the titles and how the two titles go together. And what's nice is you see people working through it. What I tell them in those moments and prepping them for the show is to just have fun with it. Think of something. If they can't think of something, just write something funny. Just put something funny down so that there's something to put in the screens. And a lot of our best moments of that game are people putting in a silly song title or something else, or a message to Jimmy. And so, yeah, it's really just about trying to assure them that absolutely we're not going to make anybody look bad. And if they just have fun with it and kind of let go and let loose, that's going to be the best result for everybody.
I can see why Jimmy likes you too. You've got this very calming sort of Zen energy about you, which
Oh,
has to really help when things go a little screwy. You've
yeah, I
had some
try to stay calm, that's for sure.
you've had some breakout viral moments on the show too, Mike. I'm thinking of Adam Lambert's performing the Muffin Man, of course, as Cher
Yeah.
during your Wheel of Musical Impressions segment. What got 30 million views on TikTok? That's a gift from the gods, huh?
I mean, it's what you hope for, it's I've been lucky enough to be doing this for a long time, and every network executive is always saying, like, yeah, how do we get that viral moment? And it's like, well, viral moment is just that, right? It sort of has a life of its own, and it is unexpected by nature of it. You can't necessarily plan for those things, and obviously we hope for that. What I think is one of the main reasons this show resonates and travels as far as it does, is that it doesn't just live on NBC, right? There's NBC, there's Peacock, and then the way that so many, especially the younger generations, are watching these days are through clips, whether that's on TikTok or Facebook or Instagram. And the beauty of the show is that it's all made up of these little segments, right? So every single act is a different game. Within those games are different rounds. All of those things could kind of live off on their own and find a new life. And when something like Adam Lambert's performance, the performances obviously are particularly travel well and do really well. But something like that, you're like, who knew? I mean, obviously we loved it and we were like, this is so ridiculous and silly. And sometimes those are the things that are just like, because he took something so small and made it into this like epic performance. It's just, Jason Derulo doing the thong song as an opera, right? Like there's these moments where you're just like, that's incredible what they can do. They make it look easy. And Adam is just an incredible vocalist, incredible singer. And yeah, just crushed that. So it's not surprising to me that so many people enjoyed it, but it's like when you get something like that that travels as well as it does. The first season we had Ariana Grande and Kelly Clarkson kind of do a little diva battle with like some of the best diva songs of all time, just going back and forth as these things came up. And they're like magicians. I mean, it's just incredible how they can keep up and do that and switch into these different sort of voices even. It's incredible. It's incredible to watch. And so, yeah.
It's great to see stuff like that too, Mike, because like you said, there's an improv and a go with the flow element to this. And so much of what we see everywhere is so scripted. The fact
Yeah.
that you don't have that there isn't a scripted element to it, I think is really part of the secret to the success of the show.
I mean, I think the whole goal is to just, like I said, make the live feeling of this translate to the audience at home, right? It's like that is what I think is the sort of secret ingredient to all of this. Is it's like, these celebrities get out there, they go on stage, we basically start the show, and then we're off and running. And so, yeah, whatever happens happens. And we had Patti LaBelle on, and she ended up getting a what we call nonsense karaoke, and she got her own song, Lady Marmalade, but like with completely nonsense lyrics. So she knew the melody, but she was trying to keep up with these lyrics that had been completely changed. She obviously has been singing the correct ones her whole life. And so seeing her try to like just stumbling through this, like it wasn't perfect. And that's what made it so great, was watching this iconic, legendary singer, Patti LaBelle, have to sing, I have a chihuahua named Guava. It's like the lyrics that were coming out of her mouth were so silly, and she just had such a great time doing it. It was so fun to watch.
Well, just to see everybody letting their hair down like they do, and really agonizing when they don't do well too. You can really
Yeah.
see that everybody's really taking this pretty seriously.
Yeah, they do. People get competitive, It's like it's game night in your house. It's like, I mean, I know for sure I'm exactly a victim of that too. Even just at home with my family and we're playing games, like you want to win. It's like it's hard to not want to do that once a game starts, as silly as the game is.
For sure. Well, I just want to go quickly back to
Yeah,
the
of course.
Emmy nomination before we wrap here, Mike. So
Absolutely.
were you shocked to wake up to that on Emmy nomination morning, or did you feel confident this was going to happen?
Confident? No. I mean, there's 25 different game shows that were in that category. When you think about, okay, there's 5 nominees, you're like, all right, well, we got like a 20% chance here. It's not crazy, but there's also an 80% chance you're not going to get nominated. And, as we already said, like the other people that are in this category, iconic, legendary game shows, best of all time. Merv Griffin produced half of them, right? I mean, they were all produced and originated between 1956 and 1976, and so when you look at it like that, you're like, wow, there hasn't been, of all those shows, we're the only one that has been produced in the last, or originated in the last 45 years. So we're standing on the shoulders of these giants, and that's such an incredible feeling to be put amongst them. You hope it's not a fluke, right? You're like, wow, this is insane. So no, I was absolutely shocked, surprised, grateful, honored, all of those things. It just feels so good to be in the company of those people. And there were other great shows that weren't nominated and that have a similar history. So when you look at things like that, you're like, yeah, we feel really great that people are recognizing that this show deserves to be in this category. And personally, for me, I'm grateful that we have such a hardworking, creative team that does their best to make all of these things look effortless and easy. I think the games look and feel silly, but when you really like study the show and you start to see that, like, wow, every single game, and we have like 30 different games on this show and we're only in our second season, but each of those games has their own set of rules, the way they work, their own content, the questions that we ask or the music that we put forward. And then each game has its own animated sequence that starts it, its own theme song, its own set of graphics, its own scoring system. So, there's a lot of work that goes into making it look easy. And I'm just truly grateful that, the team is being honored for all the hard work that they put into this.
Well, there's a lot of moving parts to this show, as you say, just deceptively so. And maybe the fact that you guys are the new and fresh one among the nominees is going to give you a better shot to win.
I
Uh,
hope.
with, with that, we're out of time, Mike Yurchuk. Best of luck at the Emmys, uh,
Thank you, I
which,
appreciate it.
which I have confidence will eventually be held. And thanks for joining us at Gold Derby.
Thank you so much, Ray. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.